This episode is brought to you by Google Gemini. With the Gemini app, you can talk live and have a real-time conversation with an AI assistant. It's great for all kinds of things, like if you want to practice for an upcoming interview, ask for advice on things to do in a new city, or brainstorm creative ideas. And by the way, this script was actually read by Gemini. Download the Gemini app for iOS and Android today. Must be 18 plus to use Gemini Live.
This episode is brought to you by AWS. Amazon Q Business is the generative AI assistant that can securely understand your business data, summarize results, and streamline tasks. Learn what Amazon Q Business can do for you at aws.com/learn more.
Conservatives are now Harvard's fiercest foes. You can now test reels. We're going to talk about what's coming up for my businesses in 2025, and we're going to talk about agility and adaptability. Enjoy.
Side of a dream. I wanna live. I wanna love you a little longer. I was invincible many years ago when I was so much stronger.
Welcome to the Age of Jeremy. My name is Jeremy Quintanilla. If you're new to this podcast, it is all about the amazingly wonderful, extraordinary things that I'm doing to build my businesses such as 3T Warrior Academy, Q Financial, Age of Radio, Merlin, the smartest way to track your crypto, and all of the things that I am learning along the way. I'm trying to kind of teach you about them, tell you what I'm doing so you don't have to make the same mistakes that I make. Or if you are making those mistakes, you can try to correct them based off of what I found out when I was doing those exact same things. Occasionally, we talk about the personal things that are going on in my life during our lo-fi episodes that come out periodically or sporadically, and we will eventually have interviews on here as well. So make sure that you follow me on all social media so you know what's going on. You can find me everywhere at Age of Jeremy, except for on X, it's at Age of Jeremy Q. On LinkedIn, it is Cesar Jeremy Quintanilla, and on Facebook, it is Cesar Jeremy Quintanilla, just because they needed me to verify my identity. All right. Also, make sure that you check out our new live podcasting stream show on Age of Radio at Age of Radioverse. On Instagram, we go over podcast news, the changes in podcasting, what's going on in podcasting technology. We go over anime, comic books, technology, geekdom, all kinds of fun stuff. And we also go to live events and do live interviews. The show traditionally comes out on Fridays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on the Age of Radio Instagram at Age of Radioverse. But there's on-demand versions as well on Instagram, obviously, where it saves as a reel. But you can also head on over to X and check it out. And you can go to YouTube at Age of Radioverse and check it out as well. If you want to see all of those cool shows that we have, or that new show that we have, we're working to add pieces to it and segments to it. But the main show, like I said, comes out most Fridays on the Age of Radio Instagram at Age of Radioverse Live. And then we do other special lives with it as well. And one of those special lives we're going to be doing is going to be at Tempe FanCon 2024. You're going to start seeing some advertisements on all of the Age of Radio social media regarding that and all the cool interviews that we are going to be doing. We are going to continue to build this media company with Geekdom, and I have a lot of cool things in store for that as well, which I'll be talking about in the business segment. Also, too, if you want to know about insurance, there is a link in the episode description. Reach out to me and I will reach out to you. We'll set up a consultation to help you realize how you can take profits on the way up, put that into something like Index Universal Life Insurance, and you can protect your wealth. So again, there is a link in the episode description for that. And then if you want to join our 3T Warrior Academy, there is a link in that for you as well, where we help people learn about cryptocurrency, about business, about health, fitness, motivation. That is the business that Coach JV and I originally started back in 2017. What it is today didn't really start coming around until 2020, but we're continuously building that as well. And I will talk a little bit about that in the business segment here, because some of what I'm trying to do in 2025 will have to do with that. But for us to get started, let's talk about Harvard. So again, my political belief system is a little bit different than a lot of the people that I hang around with. I traditionally am more into anarcho-communism or a communist or a Marxist, whatever term you like to label me as. What I would hope for is that people are free to do whatever they want. It's not what most people think of as communism, where the government oversights it. Read Karl Marx 1, 2, and 3. Read about Leninism. Read about Mao. You just have to put some energy into it. Again, in our traditional schooling economic system, we traditionally teach Austrian economics. We don't really even teach Keynesian economics anymore, even though Keynesian economics is what got us out of the Great Depression. But essentially, we're very Austrian economicsy, and so it's really important to study economics. And you can kind of get your own belief system, I guess, and what you think would work the best. And for me, I currently believe that a better system would not be crony capitalism, to not currently have our current system of capitalism that we currently have. And I personally believe that everybody needs to kind of take a look and realize that both sides of the fence are playing us, and each and every one of you need to do what's going to be best for you and your family. And if you can play the game that they're all playing, which is what I hope to educate you with in my podcast and in the 3-2R Academy and all the other places that I educate, then I hope that you can do that so you can have a better life for you and your family, and that you can take what you learn and you can help others as well. But that being said, most of the people that I hang around with are traditionally conservative, in the realm of, being probably Trump supporters, I suggest, would imagine, or maybe right leaning, or center right leaning. And again, there's no judgment on any of that. We all need to do what we think is going to be the best for ourselves and how we think we can help the community. But I'm very community driven, probably because of my base religion that I usually identify as, which is Buddhism, which is all about the community and the Sangha and helping grow that community, and that we're all interconnected. And I don't think that you can have that in a capitalist system to the degree in which I think that would benefit all people. So that being said, I'm also, along with that, very, I guess, a prominent into education. The mainly, I get, and prominent. I guess I've said that weird. Let me rephrase that. I should say that I am a big believer in higher education, and I'm a big believer in education. I don't think that there is some type of conspiracy to kind of liberalize people in the current education system. However, I can see why people might think that, because of most of people that are in college, or most people that come out of college, most except for business school, usually, they usually come out more liberal, and they are more, about, liberties and progressiveness, rather than, not having liberties and progressiveness and not being progressive, I guess would be the best way to put it. And I found this really cool article in Bloomberg's. This is by Janet Lauren. It's about Harvard's fiercest foes are gaining power and vowing punishment. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I encourage every single individual in the world to go to college. I don't believe that it's going to make you wealthy. I don't necessarily believe that is a predicate, that you will become a billionaire because you went to college. What I can say is most billionaires did go to college, at least for their bachelor's degree. And I can also say that my life would not be where it's at, and the people around me's lives would not be where they're at if I didn't go to college. And so because of that, I think that we are creating something in society where we are encouraging people not to go after the education in which they should be going after. And they should, and because of that, I think that we're making America less wise, or less educated, I guess you could say. But along with that, I think that we are making the country less wise because of it. And I think that we need to kind of turn that around. And we need to have more support going into our schooling system, not money support, more communal support, more people trying to be a part of the community as it relates to what kids or children are getting educated in, what our workforce is getting educated in, and through that we can make it better. Because I'm not going to say that they don't need to learn personal finance. Of course they do. I think that they should have more of a personal finance class than a main economics class, or the economics class should be changed into a personal finance and business class where you teach them about economics and you teach them about, debt, balance sheets, profit and loss, how to start a business, how to sell stocks, and And a lot of states are moving towards that, but they're moving towards that because people are being a part of that in the community rather than doing these really large, weird shifts of saying that, screw that, I don't want my children to go to the public school. I want them to go to a private school. We shouldn't have, or to come homeschool, which is okay if that's something that somebody wants to do. I'm not saying that in any way whatsoever, but I'm saying that situation may not work for everybody, and we need to fight for an education system that helps everybody as best as possible to obtain the things that they want in life without being oppressed by the other hierarchies that oppress us inside of our state. And so that's kind of like my viewpoint on it. And so when I saw this article, I wanted to touch a little bit on it because I think that it's something that we kind of need to think about. And I encourage everybody to educate themselves about education in the United States, about higher education, about community college education. And I encourage you, if it's something that bothers you and you want to make it different, rather than going away from it, go into it deeper and try to make the changes that you want to see in the schooling system. And whether you have a different view of what should happen than I do, if we come together and communicate about it, then we can make a schooling system and an education system that's going to work for the masses of the people. And so in the days after Kamala Harris lost all 7 swing states, the popular vote, and the 2024 presidential election, Harry Lewis was disappointed to read that some Harvard teachers offered condolences to students and told them classes were optional. One physics professor stress-baked lemon bars to ease the pain of Donald Trump's victory, according to the Harvard Crimson. To Lewis, a computer science professor and former dean of Harvard College, who's been teaching at the school for 50 years, this really upset him. The episode that this is from pointed to a deeper problem: the infantilization of students and politicization of the classroom, which is something that I do think that needs to be fixed in our education system. We've allowed significant numbers of faculty to think that the way that they are going to change the world is through some kind of social activism, and that this is part of their responsibilities or opportunity as a scholar, he said in an interview. For Harvard's detractors, it's exactly what they've come to expect from an institution where, according to surveys by the Harvard Crimson, only 13% of this year's graduating seniors describe themselves as conservative or very conservative, and more than 3/4 of faculty identify as liberal, which is traditional for most colleges, mainly because people that usually have college educations or masters or PhDs tend to have a better understanding culturally of the world, I guess, or of how they think about things. And traditionally, those align more with liberal concepts and progressive concepts than conservative concepts. A largely part is probably because of the way, this is just my opinion, is largely part because of the religious implications of how conservatives interlock their religious belief systems inside of their political belief systems and don't really separate them. Kind of like, for example, Tennessee, I think it was, or Louisiana, trying to put the 10 Commandments in the classroom. That is something that any educated person would disagree with if they had a really good understanding of what we're trying to accomplish in the country, and how that is just ridiculous for people that have all different types of religious beliefs. And so anyways, another one of these critics is activist Christopher Rufo. He now wants the incoming Trump administration to make Harvard a primary target to its bid to reshape higher education. A comment from him is, if we can extract changes from Harvard, if we can push it in a better direction, which again, who defines the better direction? That's one of the problems with this. Other universities will look at that as a signal and adjust their policies. Rufo, a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute who was instrumental in the ousting of President Claudine Gay earlier this year, said in an interview, "This fractious environment in which faculty, students, administrators, activists, and government officials are all at odds with one another has made the job of University President Alan Garber, who's 69, particularly difficult. And for the physician and economist installed as interim leader after Gay's resignation in January is about to get worse. Some of Harvard's fiercest critics are preparing to assume the most powerful positions in government after the Republicans swept the presidency, Senate, and House of Representatives. Trump has named New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, a once proud alum turned tormentor of the school, to his cabinet. His vice president, J.D. Vance, has described university endowments like Harvard's as cancers and cancers on American society. And the GOP-led Congress is already threatening Harvard's taxing, stimulus, and federal funding, which this is just essentially becoming a bipartisan partisan issue. The one where one side believes, so for example, Democrats and liberals will believe that the church should be taxed. And to combat that, the right is now suggesting that endowments start getting taxed. My personal opinion is that we should have neither of them taxed, except for in certain situations, but we're not going to go into that right now. Anti-democratic forces would gladly dismantle higher education, said Richard Thomas, a classics professor at Harvard. Harvard may have to decide between living without federal funding or being dependent on submission to extreme political control that could come with that funding. I would imagine that they would just not rely on federal funding, because I believe that enough alums from Harvard, this is just my assessment, would probably give to Harvard. It's not just lawmakers hammering Harvard, the oldest and richest U.S. college with a $53 billion endowment. Donors and long-term supporters are also demanding change. I guess I'm wrong. I guess they wouldn't put their money into it. Their criticisms include how it responds to anti-Semitism on campus, recruits students and faculty, and selectively applied rules around free speech. And to be honest, I don't think I think that the free speech is free speech. I think that they should allow it from whatever that free speech is, as long as it's not hurting anybody. If a group of KKK people want to go onto the campus and talk about KKK stuff or neo-Nazi stuff, and, communist wants to go on the campus and talk about dismantling capitalism, both of them should be able to go on there, as long as it's not inciting hate and it's not inciting violence. So again, example would be, KKK might be difficult not to incite hate, but there has been, where they can do that. So I'm not like, you can do it in a way in which you're pushing your belief systems in a way that's not inciting specific hate, because that's how the KKK has been able to stay in business for all of these years and to continue to get people that maybe otherwise wouldn't believe in against their, believe totally in their hate speech, but kind of believe in their brotherhood, right? You could go out and talk about the brotherhood of it and so forth. Same thing with neo-Nazism. And same thing, I guess, to a different degree with communism, even though communism doesn't really push hate. It pushes, liberating people from capitalism. But anyways, not to get completely off track. My point is that everybody should be able to have freedom of speech, in my opinion, on a public place. Now, that being said, Harvard isn't really a public campus, as opposed to like a public university like Arizona State University. So that might be a little bit different, and they might be able to police that in some capacity, because of it not being a public institution and it being a private institution. But I guess if you're on public, land, then I guess you could do it and the government can't say anything about it. And I don't think that they should police freedom of speech in any way whatsoever. I think that it's good to have that discourse and to have that so people can communicate with each other. And with that, we'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Global X. Since 2008, Global X ETFs has been committed to empowering investors with unexplored, intelligent solutions. Global X specializes in exchange-traded funds that offer exposure to the artificial intelligence ecosystem, including themes like data centers, robotics, semiconductors, and cloud computing. To learn more about Global X's entire suite of ETFs, from covered calls, fixed income, emerging markets, and more, visit globalxetfs.com.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay, where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying, just beautiful.
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay. Things people love.
Instagram released something that I think is good, maybe. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on... this is my personal opinion. I think the stuff that X is pushing out is a lot more beneficial than the stuff that Instagram is pushing out. However, I think that they're trying to do different things. So I guess in what Instagram is trying to do for content creators, I guess is really good. And the stuff that X is trying to do for content creators in the capacity of being the news is really good as well. I'm still up in the air on whether or not that's going to be beneficial to society or not. But people should have a place, as I mentioned before, to have a place to freely speak. As long as they're not inciting hate. I don't know if the KKK was a good example of that. I don't know why I always use that one. I think it's just because some of the people that I'm around, they don't believe that the KKK exists. And that I think is a little weird because racism does exist and racism happens and crimes happen that are racistly motivated. And I think that it's weird that we don't think that that exists in the United States. But maybe that's why I choose to utilize that as an example. But again, any organization should be able to freely speak and freely assemble and freely talk about the things that they want to talk about. And I think that that's one of the things that makes any country really great. Do I think that everybody should go and say whatever they want? Probably not. I think people need to think a little bit more. But anyways, that being said, that's an X situation and a freedom of speech situation. We're going to talk about Instagram Reels. All right. So with Instagram Reels, they have a new feature where you can actually test out a reel to see how it's going to work. And the way that it works is you make the video like you normally make the video, and the reel goes out, but it goes to people that are not your specific friends and followers, or followers, I guess. And it tries to see if it's going to get traction. You can see how the engagement is. You can see how the likes work on it. You can see how many views it gets. And then you can decide to send it out everywhere. And I think that that's a really good idea from Instagram. I feel like these last ones that I've talked about with Instagram, like with their notes, I just don't know if they're like these leaps and bounds that they should be making. But again, they're testing things, so I think that's really good. I can't imagine someone like, here's the thing, here's the problem with it. So we have content that we make, we test it, it never gets to what we want it to be, so we never put it out. Or is it possible that it's going, or will it do better on the people that it goes out to, and then when they release it in totality, it doesn't fall into the same algorithmic push that the test would, and then it doesn't end up doing as well as you thought it would have done? Like, I haven't personally tried it yet. I've seen I saw when they did it, I saw that the feature was available. I just didn't personally try it because I just like pushing out my content, so that content is there. That's what I want to say, and if the algorithm picks it up, it'll pick it up and push it out. But I think for like more thoughtful content creators, my content, because there's so much that's going on, like I have an idea of what I want to put out. I go and I talk about it and I put it out. Kind of like with this. I had an idea of what I wanted to talk about today. Some things didn't end up exactly what I wanted to say for them. I've had some technical difficulties also. But for the most part, I knew I wanted to talk about Harvard because I really want to change the view that we have on education. I think it's just a horrible view that we have on it in society right now. And it's been very good to me, and I think it's been very good to a lot of people. So that I want to change. And then I want to talk about Instagram Reels, which I'm doing right now. And then I want to talk about what we're doing in business, and I have some bullet points. And so, like, for me, it just doesn't make sense to be like, okay, I'm going to go and test this reel, see how it does, and then push it out. This one I'm going to push out. This one I want to test, right? For me, it doesn't work because there's so much going on. For someone that's their whole job is being a content creator, I think that that could be really, really good and very, very beneficial. So they said that should definitely try it out. You could create a calendar where you're like, okay, I have these ideas for these reels, right? Because a lot of content creators do that. They think further out into the future than I do as it relates to that type of content, right? And so they can go, on this day, I want to do this, but I've never done this before. Let me test it and see how it goes. And then I'll start pushing it into my traditional feed. And that might be kind of like how I would utilize it, you know, from me. Like if I have my crypto, you know, reel that I like doing, I have my business reel that I like doing, I have my book reel, I like having a social media type post that I push out, and I kind of like cycle through those as best as I can to kind of have an idea of what I want to push. If maybe I want to be like, oh, let me try this other thing in here and test how it goes and see if it works, then yeah, I would probably use the reel in that capacity, but I wouldn't do it on a regular basis. It would just be like when I want to change up what I'm specifically talking about. And so I think that for creators that's their like main job, their main thing, hands down, I think that this is a fantastic thing that would benefit them. It's just, I don't know how, like, my only thought is like, will it do as well when you push it out everywhere as it did during the test? Because we don't get to see that. It's not transparent to us in that capacity because they keep a lot of that stuff kind of secret. But I think if you watch Adam Mosseri, who's the CEO of Instagram, I think he's trying to do a good job of kind of telling you what you should be doing on Reels to get good engagement. Like, I follow him and like I listen to the things that he says. I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but there's been a time where he's like mentioned, try this, do this, don't do this. And I've tried that and it's kind of worked better on some of those posts. So I think that he's trying to tell you what to do without directly telling you what to do.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
I want to take the next few moments to talk a little bit about 2025 and the businesses. There was a lot of learning that I did this year. I think one of the biggest things wasn't, I'm going to call it procrastination, but I don't mean it in procrastination in the sense that I didn't want to do it. And so there was a conversation that I had with someone that was, I felt really bad for the individual in the conversation. And then I felt angry about the conversation from a personally, and then also from a business perspective, I guess. Mainly because of the fact that how I personally look at business might be a little bit different than how everybody looks at business. And that's one of the things that I am kind of like dealing with. And so, while I don't personally like Elon Musk, and I've mentioned this lots of times, I don't personally like Elon Musk's politics, or how he wants, like, as it relates to like LGBTQ plus, how he treats people on social media. I don't like any of that. But like, one of the things that I do admire, at least from the mythos of Elon Musk, is like his work ethic. And Mark Cuban, like, I feel like they spend a lot of time trying to know everything that's going on in their business. They spend a lot of time reading their emails. They spend a lot of time reading the texts and the messages so that they have a sense of how to move and manipulate different levers, not manipulate, probably not the right word, trigger different levers to make sure that the strategy is going out there. And so like, that's something that I shouldn't expect everybody to be that way. And that's something that I'm trying to deal with in 2025, that the way in which, if I'm choosing to run a business a specific way, I can't expect that the other people run the business that same way. I don't think that would be fair to them. And everybody's style is going to be different. And that's not to say that any one style is better or not. It's just that I'm trying to follow the moves of the people that I'm trying to emulate in society, in at least the business world, which would highly be Elon Musk and probably Mark Cuban. Those are two of my favorite business moguls that are out there, and then probably Mark Zuckerberg. And not even just, and I'm talking not like their personalities, not their people, not if we think that they're doing evil things, nothing like that. I'm just talking about literally the activities that we think that we do or that we're told about that they're doing. Same thing with Satya Nadella is a huge one. One of the best things that I heard from Satya Nadella when he announced the new Copilot in VS Code, which I want to check out, and part of GitHub, is that he codes regularly. He's looking at code regularly in the business to help solve some of the greatest problems. He codes, at least he made it sound that way. I don't know if he's really doing it, but my point is that, like, let's say that he is doing it, right? Let's look at this pragmatically. If he is doing it, and Microsoft is like one of the wealthiest companies in the world, and in my opinion is not going away for a very long time, as long as it has good leadership and good innovation, then why would I not emulate that specific thing? That's what I want to do, because those are the goals that I want to get to. My goal in all of this isn't just to get a bunch of money and like go off into the sunset and spend my money. my goal is to help humanity in some capacity. My goal is to help shape and change at least Arizona, if not the world. I think I'm not naive enough to be like, I'm going to go and change the entire globe. My goal is to be like, let's make Arizona and Glendale the innovation technology hub. Let's try to create these things. Let's build these things inside of the world. Let's get more people out into space. Let's get more food in buildings vertically. Let's get things growing faster. Let's move away from killing animal. There's all these things that I think about, and the way in which that I want to go about them, is through emulating and copying the people that I admire. And I can't expect other people to think or be the way that I am. And that's something that I am consistently dealing with as a businessman or as an entrepreneur. So that's one of the biggest things that I want to change in 2025 is just kind of like, hey, look, I'm doing this. This is what I'm going to do. But what has also happened that I'm very, very glad that I had this conversation was there are things that are just being pushed off that's not fair for the other people that are involved with them because of the fact that I am trying to do these other things. And that's because of my own inability to actually train and hold accountable other people to do these specific things. And not saying that I'm not holding people accountable and I'm not training them. It's just, okay, I know that like there are things that need to happen that I can't do. So I need to spend more time to make sure that people are trained up to do those things and make those things happen. Whether that means hiring someone on, training someone that currently can do it, giving that person more hours. The things that are being asked aren't necessarily difficult. It's not that there's this thing that someone has to magically know how to do. When I thought about it and looked at it as it truly is, I said, look, this could be done from a different capacity. And I had kind of been working on it, which leads me to the second thing that I need to work on is communication, but I'll get to that in a second, because I had noticed these things needed to be better, but I don't communicate that with other people, which is what I'll talk about in a moment. But it's more about looking at what needs to get done this year and training those people and holding those people accountable and getting better at that management piece of it with the specific people doing the other stuff so that we can get more stuff done quicker and more efficiently than if me just thinking that I'm the one that actually needs to do it. Now, the reason why I get set back about that is because I have to take more time to do the training and the hiring and all of this other stuff, which frustrates me. And I would like more help in that regard from everybody inside of the team. But it's my fault for not asking them and not telling them, which goes into the second thing that I really want to focus on in 2025 is communication. Because a lot of the times I have these elaborate plans inside of my head and I'm just pushing them a little and tweaking them and moving them and getting them to go, right? Like with all the stuff that I'm doing with Age of Radio, but I never communicate that with anybody, not only because it's not time, but it's just because, look, let me just do this. I'm going to keep moving at it. But that's not fair for the other people that are involved with it, right? Like people and leaders have to communicate with each other or over communicate with each other so that they know exactly what is going on so they can also make the best assessments and the best decisions in the realm in which they're currently working. And so if I have to think about from a totality of what needs to get better is the training and the team members of what needs to get done, right? And then also the communication piece. And I'm really trying to make that a new focal point inside of 2025. I think in 2024, it was all about being more efficient. And I think I've created a lot of those efficiencies and a lot better at that. Now it's like, okay, we need to get more people trained up, more people also working efficiently in the same capacity in which I'm working at, the efficiency, and then hopefully getting them to hire the people that they need. And then it just becomes this big, huge leveraging piece of employees and you grow and grow and grow. And I think that that's one of the biggest pieces that we need to kind of figure out and what I need to do moving into 2025. And that's what I'm really focused on. As far as some other things that I'm really focused on is really moving Age of Radio into more creating their own pieces of journalism and content. And eventually as revenue comes in, kind of making our own specific shows or journalistic shows and hiring people to do those and around specific things in the industries and the niches that we're going to go after in that space. So we're gonna start that off. My goal is to have an X blog, specifically Age of Radio on X. I think X is a fantastic platform for people. let me rephrase that. I don't think it's a fantastic platform for everybody. It can be a little annoying. But I think that from a business standpoint, businesses should be on X, and they should take advantage of the tools and the audience that's on X as they move forward, but then try to build other pieces in other areas as well. So for example, with Age of Radio, we're going to start with a blog. I'm going to find a journalist. I'm going to pay them per word, or however we figure out the freelancing agreement. And then we're going to focus on games, geekdom, anime, comics, things of that nature that they can write about. And we'll put that out in a specific consistency as a blog on specific X, as if it was our own, our feed was our own newspaper. And then we'll advertise that out and more people will read it. And then we'll figure out ways to make revenue with that piece of content. And so that's one of the biggest things. And then going harder into the ad sales space, which is going to have to be me being with someone and teaching them, and finding someone that can be a part of it, that knows a little bit about it, and then moving that into the next, space. It's not that hard. You have to find leads, you have to call them, you have to reach out to them. It's a numbers game. And so when I would do that regularly during the week before we had 5 businesses, when it was just 3T and Age of Radio, it was super easy to get sales for Age of Radio. Now, that being said, I understand the fact that sales used to be a lot easier for ads before everything started consolidating, and before COVID, and before the economy changed. But now the economy is on the up and up. And I believe within a Trump administration, when people feel good about things, and I think that they might, from a business standpoint, feel good in the new environment, they'll want to spend money. They just waste money, in my opinion. And so I want to be in a good position to capitalize on that as we go into a new administration. And the only way to do that is to have more people selling ads and talking about Age of Radio and getting that out there. And I know that we can do it because our downloads have been going up. We've been doing a fantastic job increasing our downloads because of the way in which I've strategized the growth of the clips and the growth of the social media. And I think that that's starting to take hold in the way in which we are on YouTube now, and the way in which we advertise the shows. We just need to tweak that a little bit and turn it up. And that's where we're going in 2025. And then also too, to really focus on building Q Financial into what it is. And the way that we're going to start that is through the Q Financial social media suite, which is, what I mean by that is setting up the LinkedIn page, Instagram page, figuring out content, how to educate people around, taxes, bookkeeping, retirement, and then grow that as a separate business. Again, there's a fine line between the stuff that would come from 3T and the stuff that would be generated outside of that. And so I think that with the 3T stuff, there's a specific demographic that is interested in that. And with the Q Financial stuff, I really want to find a different, there's a different demographic that can exist in going after certain things with that. And that's really what I want to kind of focus on with that. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we move into more business conversation in this podcast and the other ones, about how you can go after different demographics with different brands. And that's really what I'm thinking of more of with Q Financial, and what we're doing as an investment firm, and as a merchant company, as a lending company, and as an algorithmic company, and all kinds of stuff. So I'm really excited about where things are going into 2025. But again, it's, sometimes you have to really look at the things that you're doing and as an entrepreneur and say, look, I need to be doing this better. And sometimes you can't see that because you're in the grind. And so when other people mention things, you can't, get. One thing that I learned that I feel like I did much better this time around, I didn't get upset or angry about the situation. I got upset about the situation, but it wasn't in a way in which I was angry at the individual for it, because it made sense for why the individual had talked to me about what they were, because I was thinking that they were feeling that way, because I would feel that way if I were in their position, which is why I know that I need to change something in what I'm specifically doing. And as an entrepreneur, you should constantly be doing that and be open to when people are coming to you with that, and not close yourself off. And that's one of the things that I'm going to continue to also work on, along with that hiring, accountability, and communication piece.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Komm du noch?
If you've heard that sound from Babbel before, I bet you do. Babbel is the science-backed language learning app that actually works. With quick 10-minute lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts, Babbel gets you on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. With over 16 million subscriptions sold and a 20-day money-back guarantee, just start speaking another language with Babbel. Right now, up to 55% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/Spotify podcast. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify podcast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Agility is the ability to rapidly respond to changes in the market, customer needs, and industry trends. It's about being flexible, adaptive, and proactive. Agility isn't just for large corporations, but it's also for each and every one of you as a content creator, a small business owner, and entrepreneur, and it helps us stay competitive and seize new opportunities. And I think that this is really important in understanding agility because 2025, we're going to need to be agile, and we're going to need to be agile just moving forward in business. And it's something that I've constantly been thinking about and constantly been figuring out what we need to be doing differently or what I need to be doing differently to grow my businesses to where I want to get them, which also leads me to another point. Where is it that I want to get them? Because it has been a while since I sat down and I said, where do I want this to go for some of them? And I started doing that through this little exercise that Earl Nightingale has that Coach JV taught us, where you use this passage from Matthew in the Bible, the book of Matthew, and you say it, and then you visualize your goal, and then you say your goal. I do it out loud about where you want to go. And looking at that, I'm like, hey, this feels good, saying, hey, look, this is where I want it to be. This is what I want it to do. And so I feel like because I'm pulled in a lot of directions and I'm not focused and organized enough and using I don't want to say organized enough. I'm pulled in too many directions and need to be more organized in the fact of doing the most important things. And one of those most important things is looking at where we're going and what those goals look like, and regularly looking at them and seeing if we're meeting them so that we know if we're doing a good job. And so I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about agility and looking and being able to understand agility and adaptability for your business, because you need to be that if you're going to move to the next level, because businesses need to be flexible and they need to be resilient. And one of the best ways to do this to start off is to embrace technology. And this is something that I used to do very, very well, but I felt that over the last 2 years with so much stuff happening, I just got into a ridiculous, boring grind of getting up, doing the same thing in the same way with the same meetings, trying to add different pieces of it, not really being proactive about where that was specifically going because of the fact that so much stuff was going on and me not communicating that with everybody, being like, hey, everybody, look, this is way too much, with 9,000 people asking me to do stuff and wanting to do stuff, and then me also trying to do stuff. And that's something that I needed to do better. And that's the reason why I'm having talking about this stuff on this podcast. But we need to embrace technology. So small businesses should leverage the latest tools and the platforms to streamline operations and improve efficiency. And one of the things that I really, really encourage you is AI. Like for this, one of the things that always used to frustrate me about making the podcast was sitting down and creating the content. Now I write a long ass paragraph inside of a Copilot, and I say, Copilot, make this idea into a podcast. And that's where we get a lot of these from now. And that's like the benefit, right? Because I'm thinking about what I want to teach. I don't want to sit down and write all of it. I just have Copilot write it and we talk about it, and then I add my stuff to it, and so you need to be using artificial intelligence, and you need to be doing automation, right? And that's one of the things that I've just started to realize, that I don't automate enough of the financial stuff that we have to do. So I need to automate more of that, because it will give us more time back on these medial tasks, which is ridiculous, because before, when I used to embrace technology, the first programming language that I learned how to write in was Python. And in Python, the first book that I got was automate the boring stuff. All the boring stuff needs to be automated so the humans can do more thinking. Right. And so the only way to do that is through embracing technology and looking at automation. So you need to be looking at automation. You need to be looking at tools like Teams, Slack, Trello, Notion, that Notebook LM that we talked about on our Mercury show this last week. I'm going to start working, set up a QuickBook LM account in my Q Financial business to start playing with that and looking at it. Like when these things come on, you need to be like a first fucking mover in all of these. Be a first mover in all technology, and you will find technology that's going to make you beneficial. And I see that in other people that are doing much better in the automation space than what I am. And like with QuickBooks, you can automate all kinds of stuff. All of these technologies are looking at automation and AI to make things more efficient. And they know that they need to compete with other technologies that are working on making things more efficient so that you want to stay with their technology. So embrace freaking technology. The next thing is you want to foster a culture of continuous learning. I talk about this all the time, but I don't fucking do it enough. And that's one of the things that I am really putting as a forefront when I'm looking at the things that I want to accomplish. If there is something that I want to learn from a business standpoint, that's going to take precedence over other meetings that I have. And that's just going to have to be that way, because you have to constantly be learning in these capacities. Now, I think you need to constantly be learning in all capacities, like me learning Chinese and all that stuff. But like, you need to set precedence on the business things that you're learning as well, so that you can know that you're getting better if that's something that you want to do. And that's something that I want to do. And I recommend that's something that you should do, because there's Coursera, there's Udemy, there's LinkedIn Learning, which is what I'm going to probably start with first, because I'm a Microsoft nut and I loved LinkedIn, and LinkedIn's owned by Microsoft, and I have a LinkedIn, Sales Navigator account. So, you really want to be looking at that and make that a priority for you and for your team to skill them up. Build strong relationships. Strong relationships with customers, suppliers, and partners can provide valuable insight and support. I've been listening to the Philosophize This podcast. And on Philosophize This, there's a Korean philosopher. I can't pronounce his name and I can't remember exactly how it's said. But essentially, to make a long story short, he believes that if you focus solely on yourself, you're going to continue to feel like you have to solely focus on yourself, because the piece that you're missing is community. And this is something that I've had to learn this year. And I've changed my viewpoint on it a lot. And I've been much happier this year than I have been in previous years. And I'm even much happier in the second half of this year than I was the first half of this year, because I have been mainly focusing on, and Dustin and them are going to be mad because we haven't played Dungeons and Dragons yet, but I've been focusing on, even though they may not think about it, is doing more stuff with people, with family, with friends, spending time talking to them. One of the things that I've learned from Johnny Crypto is talking can be very beneficial, as it relates to talking to more people on the phone, like with chit chat, right? Because he likes to chit chat. And I've always been an anti chit chat because it's just not efficient. But when I let up that guard and I'd be like, hey, let me actually converse with people and talk to them and be friendly with them and just have conversation with them, I feel fucking a billion times better. So I'm trying to do that in my business partnerships and my relationships. So you want to regularly engage with your customers through, so you want to regularly build those types of relationships with your suppliers, your partners, your network. And then for customers, if you can't do that type of communication with them, which I can, because, in the finance business, you have better conversations with people, regularly engage with your customers through surveys. You can engage with them through social media to understand their evolving needs. Like, one of the biggest things that's kind of changed with me in social media is like about engagement. Like, I used to get so hung up on followers. I don't give a fuck about that anymore. I want more and more engagement. I want people to like my post. I want them to comment on my post. I want to talk to them on my post. I talk to people all day long now on Threads. Like 30 minutes before I go to bed, I'll lay in bed and I'll just chat with people on Threads and build communications. And I've been able to like secure so many people to be on my podcast, to go on people's podcasts. Same thing with LinkedIn. It's just, it takes time and energy. And I think that people don't want to put in that time and energy because they have other things that are really important, like family and, other stuff. But if you take that time to look at your calendar and really block out what you're actually doing and stick with it and be disciplined with it, you can be very, very successful. The other thing to help with agility is staying informed. So keeping up with industry news, which I've talked about in the past, market trends is super crucial. Subscribe to industry newsletters. I subscribed to a new Copilot newsletter that Microsoft put out just recently. Follow relevant blogs. And the great thing with blogs is if they have an RSS feed, you can actually put that RSS feed in your Outlook or your email client. And then every time that blog gets hit with something and the RSS feed gets updated, you'll get notified about it inside of your Outlook calendar. So really focus on that. You can use industry publications. You can use journals. There's all kinds of stuff out there. Just like find the things that you want to be a part of. Like there's a marketing journal that I want to be a part of. I want to get more into the marketing space and learn and keeping up to date with those trends in the learning space and the finance space, because those are the main, those are really just the three industries that I'm in. And I need to be up to date on them, and I want to stay up to date on them to stay relevant and to stay, and to be able to create, to be able to be agile, right? To, don't be like first mover. Sometimes it can be like thought that they like waste money in some regard because they're always chasing after something, but fucking chase after it. Just do it and you'll be grateful that you did. Be open to change. Being open to change and willing to pivot when necessary is a hallmark of an agile business. Monitor key performance indicators and be ready to adjust your strategies based on data-driven insights. Flexibility in your business model can help you adapt to new opportunities and to challenges. Develop a strong online presence. That's what I'm really focusing on right now for all my businesses, except for 3T. It has a pretty good strong online presence because of Coach JV. A robust online presence is essential for reaching and engaging with your audience. Invest in user-friendly website, maintain active social media profiles, add and leverage digital marketing strategies. Content marketing and online advertising. We have an episode on content marketing, but content marketing is probably one of the best things that you can do as a business. It's where you create some type of content that's free for people that kind of like markets your business, kind of like this podcast. Like this podcast isn't necessarily about my businesses, but you learn about my businesses and it drives people back to my businesses. And that's how we kind of use this as content marketing. Same thing with the Coach JV podcast or our YouTube channel for 3T Warrior Academy. Financial planning and flexibility. This is where I need to get better at as a CFO and have people who help me do this. Not because I don't know how to do it, because I need people to help me do it, because I don't have time to do it, or I'm not making time to do it because other things are taking precedence or importance or whatever that word that should go there is. Financial agility is equally important. Maintain a healthy cash flow, have a contingency plan in place for unexpected expenses. A lot of people talk about diversifying revenue streams. I talk about that a lot. I agree with it, but I also feel that you need to get really good at your current revenue stream before you diversify out of it. Don't always be like, hey, here's a new revenue stream, here's a new revenue stream, here's a new revenue stream, and be shitty at all of them, which is something that I've done in the past, and that's why I'm telling you about it. It doesn't work that well. If you focus on one, get really fucking good at it, and then move to the next one. And then some resources for staying agile. LinkedIn Learning is a really big one. I also want you to be involved with Microsoft stuff because it helps with my stock ownership. Local chambers are a really good one. This is the year that I get on the actual Glendale Chambers of Commerce, being involved with the Glendale Chambers of Commerce. Industry associations like the Marketing Association of America. For me, communication tools, the best ones are Slack, and I like Teams better than Slack, but I also have Slack that we use for Merlin for some stuff with an advertising company that we have. Trello is a project management tool. I don't use Trello. We use Asana and we use Teams and Planner, Microsoft Planner for everything. Trey has done a lot of Udemy courses, I believe. He's loved them. I've never done any, but I'll probably start with LinkedIn Learning and then go from there. And I'll share with you as I get better and learn more. So with that being said, just take some time to look at your business and look at what's happening in 2025 and don't be afraid of the change. Embrace the change, be progressive, as I would say, be a progressive. It's going to sound really bad. Don't be a conservative. I'm not talking about politics. I'm just being in how you're doing your best business. Just move forward, learn the new stuff, integrate it into your business. If it doesn't work, find something else. Yes, if you don't plan it out, it can be a little costly. Plan out what you're trying to accomplish, find the best tools to do it, but be a part of the new stuff that's coming out and you will stay ahead of the curve. And with that, be thankful, grateful, and kind, and we'll talk with you next time. Bye.
You were born in your dying, honey, I'm already crying for you.
Thank you so much for listening to The Age of Jeremy. My name is, again, Jeremy Quintanilla. You can follow me on all social medias at Age of Jeremy, except for on X, it's at Age of Jeremy Q. And on LinkedIn and Facebook, it's Cesar Jeremy Quintanilla. So it'll probably be hard to find me there. If you liked this podcast, subscribe to it, like it, share it, do all kinds of stuff with it. Give it as a stocking stuffer if that's a way that you can do it. Just tell a friend about it during Christmas time. That would be fantastic. You're going to hear this on Christmas Eve, so you still have one more day to Do It. The opening song was Positive Change by Gaslight Anthem. The closing song was Gardens by Trevor Hall. And I'm recording into my Neumann 104. I'm recording into a Zoom L8 onto Steinberg's Cubase. And I use Waves plugins in post. And with that, be thankful, grateful, and kind. And we'll talk with you soon. Bye.
You were born in your dying